What's good, folks? And welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room brought to you by the Cover One Sports Network. I am one of your two hosts this evening, Anthony Prohaska, joined by my co-host and partner on this show, Eric Turner. And Eric, as we sit here recording this episode, we've got film obviously queued up as we do here in the Cover One Film Room. And the Bills made some more signings this week. We saw running back Damien Harris. We saw wide receiver Trent Sherfield. But there's also kind of this other kind of potential acquisitional cloud that's literally hanging over us as we record right now. What do you think about that potential cloud? And that cloud's name is DeAndre Hopkins. What do you think about it?
Oh yeah. It's quite the story right now but it's not a story, right? It's social media. So it's a weird thing. Social media is crazy. So Ryan, he's been kind of keeping us in the loop about this and tagging us in a lot of these posts. So, there's been talks about D-Hop being, the Bills being a potential landing spot for the wide receiver. I mean, even Daniel Jeremiah said it today on air, that it just makes sense, right? Over the last few hours, people have been tracking the social media of Josh Allen and DeAndre Hopkins. It's gotten to that point where like, okay, it's weird to do that. To track it. It feels weird to do that, but it's become something. I don't know what it is, but it's become something.
Josh Allen wasn't following Hopkins about an hour ago. Now he is.
And then the Buffalo Soldier, like it's something. We don't know exactly what it is, but we figured we'd have to lead off with that because I mean everyone wants to know about it. And hopefully it does break, while we are live, that the Bills do go out and get a wide receiver of his caliber because, whatever the structure financially they need to do to get this done, whether it's him or any other type of, prospect or player in the league, they're going to have to finagle some things. But adding a guy like Hopkins to the Bills offense is obviously a game changer. It changes a lot of things, and it changes the numbers game when you're talking about coverage on the back end and having Diggs and some of the other weapons the Bills have.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Stephon Diggs all the time and being a true number one receiver and the gravity that he operates with on the field and how he draws people to him. And you're in a very similar boat with DeAndre Hopkins, still, a top receiver in this NFL. And all of a sudden you're one of the few teams that have like two wide receiver ones as your wide receiver one and your wide receiver two. And, he may not have the full explosion or the juice in the legs that he potentially did when he was younger, but his ability to separate at multiple points in the stem or at the catch point, his route running, his savviness, his competitive level, his hands are still some of the best in the NFL. And how he just functions in terms of his reliability, it would be a significant upgrade to the wide receiver group. And that's not a knock against Gabe Davis or Trent Sherfield or Deontay Hardy or any. I know somebody wants to jump at that and be like, yeah, because Gabe Davis sucks. He would be an upgrade to whoever he went to because he's still that good of a player. And it's an extremely enticing combination of he and Stephon Diggs, and then having a trigger man like Josh Allen, as you pull up some of his advanced metrics here.
Yeah, and Dion says, D-Hop is awesome, but also 31 with big cap hits. Also, doesn't he want a new deal? I'm sure once a move like that happens, when he does get traded, a new deal is on the table. And so that cap hit will be lowered. Listen, I'm not a cap guy, but that's pretty obvious when it comes to getting a receiver like that. But, there is some truth to, he's 31. And you can see some of his down, he's had a couple down years, 717 yards last year, and the year before, 572.
He missed the first 6 games last year with that PED suspension.
Exactly. So, and this is the other thing, like he's still got it, on the field. I watched his film the last day or so. And like I said, we're going to have some in here if something does break. But
we're just literally just waiting, like ready to click.
Yeah, we're just ready. Like just finger on the trigger. Finger on the huddle remote.
This will be the day too that when you're ready to queue it up, the huddle remote will give you problems again and it won't
exactly.
Connect.
The thing with him, yes, he's still got gravity on the field. He can still play. He wins in different ways than I think that Josh likes. He likes separators. Josh likes separators.
Yes.
Hopkins separates differently. He separates with his length, his catch radius, above the rim, back shoulders. Like it's a different type of separation, but it obviously can win in the NFL.
Yeah.
The thing I worry about is the targets, because it's pretty obvious that Diggs was upset the way the season ended.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go back and look and just take Diggs' emotions out of it, you go back and look the second half of the season, and yes, Josh's elbow was a thing. Diggs' targets went down. And so they do need to rectify that. Now, getting a guy like Hopkins, he's very much in the same way when it comes to that alpha mentality. He wants the ball in those critical moments. He wants the ball in volume. That will be interesting if the Bills were to go ahead and make this move. That would be the interesting part to me, given the gravity that Hopkins has on the field and off.
Yeah, basically every pass is either going to Hop or Diggs and no one else. Like, yeah, I mean that jokingly, but also semi-seriously. Like, you would have two receivers who are used to being the true alpha wide receiver one for their respective teams, who are used to dominating the target share. And again, rightfully so. Like, they each have the track record to back it up. And we see DeAndre Hopkins at the top of the screen. You see that ability. Again, you separated the catch point, those back shoulder throws. And I think what's nice too with him is he's a guy who was never the fastest. He wasn't the guy who was burning everybody with his speed. Like, he's always been more of that crafty guy, find space, separate at the break or in the stem or at the catch point. So, him being older and maybe not having the same juice, I don't think has the same impact on a receiver as it would for somebody who is mainly speed based. And as you know, you roll through these clips here, Eric, like we see just similar pieces from him over and over, which is just finding space, looking like he's not moving all that fast, but he just keeps finding space, getting open. And it's not by accident. Like, it's by design. He knows how to read defenses. He knows how to leverage the space and coverages. And that's a huge piece too, right? Like, we talked about it last year so much with this Bills offense and how complicated it is and how much of it is based on, from a receiver standpoint, how much of it is reading what's going on in front of you, Josh Allen having to read the same thing, and you both seeing it at the same time. Okay, if it's this coverage, you're doing this. If this guy's doing this, you're doing that. You need those players who can operate on that level from a football IQ perspective. And that is something that DeAndre Hopkins brings with his experience, his savvy, and, the solid track record that he's had in his entire career. I think that's a bonus aside from, what else he brings from a gravity perspective, but having somebody who is a reliable piece like that. And again, will command targets in one way or another.
Yeah. Excuse me. The thing that we saw in a few of those clips was, as you said, his ability to read the defenses, right? The Bills so far in free agency, and we're talking like Deontay Hardy, adding him, he's a fantastic wide receiver across the board as long as he's on the field and stay healthy. He's a man beater. Like, he's a man beater concept type, which is what
we wanted big time. You mentioned it earlier.
Yes. So you want that. Sherfield is more of that zone beater type guy. Hopkins can do a little bit of both. Again, when he's in man coverage, when he sees that, he's going to separate and win in a different way. He's not going to beat him with speed. Again, he's going to, catch radius, length, back shoulders, body control. But you saw in a few of those clips, that's where he'll come in hand too. Whether he's in the boundary or in the slot, is his ability to read the zone coverage, sit, get the ball, big target, pretty reliable in that regard. That's where, the offense, as far as adding things in free agency, I know they didn't go big, but this would be a big move, but it would also help them beat those zone coverages that they see a bunch of. I mean, he's coming from that air raid type style under Kingsbury for a few years. And those type of offenses, spread offenses, saw a lot of zone coverage. So he's good at beating that. And again, when teams want to go to man, he has ways to beat man. But he'd be a nice compliment for Josh Allen and the Bills offense in that way. But again, it comes down to volume. They're going to have to figure out ways how to get the ball to all of these weapons that Dorsey has. But again, that's a problem I want. I mean, like, I want that issue. I want those issues as far as we're talking coordinator status.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. And I think that's where you balance the expectation and the excitement that, again, could all be for naught as we sit here talking about DeAndre Hopkins. For all we know, he's about to get traded to, I don't know, like the Detroit Lions or something. And he was just really feeling Bob Marley right now. And just
social media is crazy, man.
Social media is wild, man. Like, you just can't, everything is a clue. Everything. You remember everything with JJ Watt a couple years ago? Like, he would post a picture and it was like, yeah, but he was wearing like red and blue. Does that mean he's going to go to the Bills? And it was like, what are we doing? Like, everything was just overanalyzed to the nth degree. But when you have a player of that caliber, It tends to happen. And when you have a team that's looking for support in that area with a rabid fan base like you have with the Buffalo Bills, it creates this potential powder keg scenario.
Yeah.
And again, regardless of what happens with DeAndre Hopkins, whether it does or it doesn't, there are, realistic, I don't want to say challenges, but puzzle pieces that have to get put together for him to
Right.
fit in the offense, especially from a target share standpoint. Like that's it. That's a huge one. I don't think it should be glossed over at all, but the advantages of adding him to this offense would be significant. And I love the zone piece. Like we've seen Stephon Diggs get bracketed so much. Like, what do you do now? Do you bracket Stephon Diggs still, or what do you do with Hopkins on the other side? Do you put them both on that side and make them throw coverage that way? And then are you going to take, the defense's opportunity and maybe have a lesser athlete one-on-one with Dawson Knox? Like things just start to open up further and further for this offense. And so it would be exciting if DeAndre Hopkins were to come to Buffalo. And if he does tonight, we got you covered here with some film and some breakdowns ready and raring to go here on the Film Room. But as of now, that news is not official. It has not happened. It is just pure speculation and excitement that we are kind of capitalizing on, but maybe not. But Eric, we did have some real, legitimate, actual new players be acquired by the Buffalo Bills this week. Trent Sherfield and Damien Harris, continuing this modus operandi for the Bills this offseason, and really all these other off seasons of, adding depth and filling holes and adding players in free agency. So that way, as the offseason moves on, they're not hamstrung or handcuffed or forced into certain directions. And they're players that tick a lot of boxes and have individual skill sets that add some new things to the Buffalo Bills. And that's what we're going to be focusing on tonight in this Film Room, again, unless something crazy happens.
Yeah, I do like the acquisitions in this second wave. Adding a receiver like Sherfield from, he played in two very good offenses. So you got to take that into account with his production last year. But last year was like his first year to shine. And he did, as, again, a secondary type piece. And so, as I said, he was good for the Dolphins in the way anytime they saw like zone defense, because obviously they have Waddle and Hill. And if you're going to play man against them, you're not smart. You can't do it consistently. And more times than not, you're going to get burned. But anytime they needed a first down against zone coverage in those like 3rd and 4 to 6 situations, they kind of went to Sherfield a little bit. And so a lot of his work was against zone. I liked Harris coming out of college at Alabama. I liked him a lot, to the point where I was okay with the Bills taking him quite early, or any team for that matter. Him and Montgomery, I really liked coming out of college. I thought, so far in his career, I think he's been average. And so that move, when I looked at that initial reaction to that move of bringing him in, it was like, okay, I get the contrast. The contrast is there, but it didn't really move the needle for me. Not in a positive or negative way. I like the contrast, and that's kind of where I stand with him. I was more thinking they were going to do in the draft, the day 3 type running back. But
Bijan Robinson.
That'd be a little earlier for sure. But I thought they would use the draft for that. But it's hard to, when you look at some of the analytics that we're going to talk about and you see some of the film, it's hard to really hate on it, especially when we're talking both of these guys, what being paid to get these two guys.
That's the huge piece, right? Like everything that, we did it when we were breaking down our offensive and defensive free agent targets here in the Film Room. It wasn't just the skill set and the fit and the need. It was all of that in conjunction with the potential cost. And when you look at what the Bills got in Sherfield and Damien Harris, the cost it just adds to the value for what they add on the field and what they're costing off of it. Again, lower tier contracts for players that provide depth and or effectiveness. I'm in a similar boat with Damien Harris. I like him. I get the notion from some people that he's an upgrade to Singletary or he's similar to Singletary. I like the compliment that he offers to James Cook. I like his downhill ability and what he can do from a broken tackle perspective. As we start to move forward a bit, it is funny though how when you're looking at several advanced metrics, him and Devin Singletary are like super close from an advanced metric perspective in a whole bunch of ways. It's super funny.
See, I think this right here, this comment is overrated. His pass pro, Harris, he says, Harris is a nice upgrade in pass pro. You guys stop reading PFF grades. He was in pass pro 21 times last year, and his grade was really high. Like, stop relying on that. It's not the way to scout these guys. All right. With all due respect, it's 21 reps. I think Singletary blocked just him 90 times last year. And Singletary actually every year has got incrementally better at blocking. And last year he was really good, but I don't even think his grade was all that good. But you can't look at PFF grades. 21 snaps in pass pro is not a good sample. So
No,
I wouldn't even count the grades.
I mean, that's what we enjoy PFF from an advanced metric standpoint. But yeah, we don't really subscribe to the grades too much here. And even if you want to go back to, so he was banged up last year. So even if you wanted to play, okay, you know, like 2021, he had a good season. How much was he used? Even in that 2021 season where he saw, actually, so let's put it together. So last year, total snaps that he saw on offense, 238 snaps, 21 pass blocking reps, right? 2021, 424 snaps, so almost double total, only 49 pass blocking reps.
And look at that pass blocking grade I have on the screen. So again,
it's so funny. I was literally looking at that in my note, like on my other screen, and then I came here and you have it. Sorry.
So yeah, I mean, again, Singletary. I'm going to go to Singletary in a second, but just look at the pass reps and the pass blocking reps there, and how often he was asked to pass block. Again, 17.4% last year, which was 21 snaps, 28.2 the year before, which is, again, that was his big year. And most of the film we're going to look at is 2021, because last year that offense was a hot mess under Matt Patricia. Unwatchable film. It was pretty bad. And I knew that wasn't representative of what he brought as a running back. It was just really, really rough to watch. But, you know, again, grades, we love everything about PFF except for grades. And so
very arbitrary.
2022, 17.5% pass blocking percentage, 93 reps, 100 reps the year before, 17.8. So you can see in a pass happy offense, Singletary was asked to do a lot, especially last year. They traded away Moss. He was their primary guy as far as pass blocking goes. James Cook struggled in that area last year. So they relied on Devin. So you look at the grades, Devin didn't show out all that well according to their grades, but you guys watched the games. He was a lot better than these grades reflect, and everyone knows that.
I think Devin Singletary is, and I think that's where part of the love or potential hate or dislike for Damien Harris comes in. He's going to immediately be compared to Devin Singletary. And I was very much okay moving on from Devin Singletary this offseason. I wanted someone with a bit more juice, who offered more upside, who offered more plus matchups in some way with his skill set or traits. But Devin Singletary is not a bad running back. He's above average at almost like literally everything, and that includes pass protection. He's reliable. He's steady. He's not the sexiest back. He's not going to turn into some all-pro, but he's reliable, and he was reliable for the Buffalo Bills. And I think Harris comes, and again, I say this as a person who also likes Damien Harris, I feel like the name is what was being recognized, combined with a new signing that's like, oh my God, this new signing, everything's amazing. You know, Devin Singletary wasn't bad. He and Harris are very comparable in a lot of areas, actually. And even, you know, if you're looking at some advanced metrics, so from that 2021 season, of running backs with at least 25 carries, which there were 98. So 98 running backs in 2021 that had at least 25 carries. Damien Harris was 27th in EPA per attempt. Devin Singletary was 31st. Damien Harris was 28th in positive play percentage. Devin Singletary was 70th. Big difference there. They both were tied for 23rd in yards per attempt. They both had the exact same yards after contact per carry. And here's a big one. Damien Harris was 46th in broken tackles plus missed tackles forced per attempt percentage at 12.9. Devin Singletary was 5th at 21.3%, almost a full 9 percentage points higher. He was one of the best at making guys, whether it was in space or making guys miss in a phone booth. First down percentage, there's a decent gap. Damien Harris was 9th at 27.7%. Singletary was 41st, but that can be tied to the functionality of the offense. Right. These backs are more similar than they get credit for. Now, that doesn't mean Devin Singletary good riddance. That doesn't mean Damien Harris is a bad signing, but they are comparable in a lot of areas, but their skill sets are different and how they are used can be different.
Yes, and last season, Motor was that short yardage, goal line type running back, and he actually held his own. He actually was really good.
Yeah.
And if you look at over the last 3 years, red zone, carries, touchdowns, and all the metrics, motor is really good, especially when you compare it to Harris. Because I know everyone's like, hey, Harris is that short yardage guy, that red zone guy. He is, and he'll bring it in a different way that Devin will. But Devin actually has very comparative stats to that. So let's talk about Harris. Let's get into some of the goods on him. You guys have been mentioning it in the comments. Short yardage, red zone touchdowns over the last 2 seasons, 16. 3 of those were last year, 13 the year before when he got most of his carries. Very, very good in the red zone. Again, some of those 1-2 yarders and all like stuff like that. They used some trick plays with him back in 2021 with him taking direct snaps, running some gap runs. The thing that's interesting about him, and he talked about having very good days versus the Bills. He's actually very good against this division, and this is what I like. So listen to this. His production versus the division, it has 177 carries over the last 2 years. So 177 carries against the AFC East, and he averages 5.2 yards per attempt. Like, I'll take that. That's the type of efficiency you want, from a running back, especially in the division. And as far as efficiency goes, he's ranked last year, again, a down year. He was ranked 16th in the Football Outsiders DR, which again kind of measures that efficiency and how good he is. He was actually 16th, and they were a terrible offense last year. So some interesting stats in that regard. And the other ones I want to bring up, and I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to bring it up on the screen, their next gen stats over the last couple of years. So we're going to start with rushing yards over expected. This is 2021, and I have it on rushing percentage over expected. And so I'm going to read out what that actually means for people that don't understand. So rushing yards over expected is it uses field position, defensive alignment, and player tracking to determine how many more yards a rusher gained than we'd expect the average rusher to gain in the same situation. Now, rushing percentage over expected, which is the column I have sorted here, and you can see Damien Harris is top 10 in that regard. That is, the definition of that is the percentage of runs where a ball carrier gained more yards than expected. So if the average back's getting 5 yards, Damien Harris is going to get in this per attempt 0.67. So 5.67 yards over the average. So, and if you look at the percentage that I have sorted here, where he's ranked top 10, 43.4% of his runs gained more than the average running back would have gained in 2021. That is money. That's what you want. You want to maximize every run. And so if we fast forward to 2022, and I sort it by that percentage, you're going to see him right here, still top 10 at 45.3% of his runs, gaining over what is expected from the average running back.
And look at Devin Singletary there, only 3 spots lower, so
they're everywhere.
But it's so funny how close they are. Like, everywhere I kept looking for like Harris advanced metrics, like Singletary wasn't too far off. You hit it on the head. I think my favorite thing for him is he's another person who he's going to get you what the run is blocked for. So he's not going to hurt you. He's going to get what's there, but he's also, like you pointed out here, he's going to get you a little bit more. And then you add his physicality and his more downhill style. I like how that pairs with James Cook, but also how it potentially pairs towards the later part of games. Him being listed at those 213 pounds, he has a bit more hammer to his game than Singletary did. I like the idea of them potentially being able to lean on him as he runs through second level or third level defenders, as teams are tired, teams are wearing down a little bit. And even if that doesn't happen, he's got the wherewithal and the proven productivity and the sample size to, again, get you what's given. He does a very good job at seeing what's available. He doesn't try to do too much. He sees what's there. He'll put his head down. He might make a move every now and again, but he's just more of a straight line runner, that one pace, see hole, let me get what I can. And if I break a tackle, turn it into something else.
Yeah. And he's that, everyone says no nonsense runner, right? Like he just gets north and south as quick as he can. As we talked about, he smells the end zone. Like he just he finds a way to get into the end zone. I was surprised at how often in 2021 they ran crack toss, where they have a wide receiver, a tight end, crack the end man on the line of scrimmage, get him on the perimeter. I mean, they ran it against the Bills and he actually scored in the win game. That's that play we're talking about where he cut it back. His cutback is really nice. He likes to cut back against the grain is what I call it as a former running back. Get that defense fast flowing, get the Bills fast flowing that way and then cut it back up inside. That's the type of runner he is. I like how he sets up blocks when he has a fullback in front of him. I don't I don't really like his vision. He's no nonsense. So he just like, I have a responsibility, I have an assignment to get north and
He's not,
south.
and he's not very creative on the other side of it.
He's
Like,
not creative. No, he's not creative. That's why he's the complete opposite to Devin Singletary, because Devin was very elusive, very creative, could ad lib with the best of them. This guy is more like, hey, I want to get north and south. But I do like when he has that fullback in front of him, more so than when he has a guard pulling from the backside on power or on G leads, because he just has it. He sets up his blocks better, because I don't think he does that all that well, because he doesn't use like change of pace or use his patience behind the line of scrimmage, because again, he just wants to get north and south, which is why you saw some of those stats. So I do like lead type plays. So this is what McDermott and Dorsey are going to love, adding that element where you have the sledgehammer Gilliam at fullback. They're in the I formation. You know, it's second and 6, and they want to get into a manageable situation. You get into I formation with the sledgehammer and you run downhill. You run some ISO. You run some wind back zone runs. You know, he sets up his blocks best when he has a fullback in front of him, not necessarily all those gap runs. You know, I like his pacing better. Some of the negatives I didn't like, you talked about it. Lack of creativity in the run game. He doesn't set up his blocks all that well. There are times where there's a nice size hole and he doesn't have that burst to get by it. You know, he uses, when he goes to a line of scrimmage, it's very rarely square to the line of scrimmage. He's always got his shoulder dipped to like avoid the nearest defensive lineman or defender to slip that tackle when those arms come out. But he doesn't have that burst like you see from Cook when he wants to get north and south to get through the hole. Sometimes those arms will slow him down.
Yeah, that's very fair. And honestly, again, that's a bit similar to what we've seen with Devin Singletary, where you just that lack a little burst to kind of really turn it. And we highlighted it a lot with James Cook, like that ability to get through the hole quicker, get to the second level quicker, and the benefit of having your offensive linemen not have to hang on to their blocks as long, and what it can do to get out into space. Yeah, spot on with Harris. And I think that no nonsense style and the physicality, which is nice and what he is strong and built for, again, it coincides with the lack of flash or sexiness or sizzle to his game. He's not somebody. Oh, we got to stop. We got a super chat. Thank you very much for being here, Whitetown's King, and for the super chat.
Yo, we appreciate what up, Whitetown?
He says, I'm happy with the signing, guys. I seen Singletary got tackled by one defender too many times. Harris picks up the tougher yards, and he did well versus the Jets. Yeah, he crushed the Jets 2 years ago. He had a big day breaking tackles left and right. But Eric, what do you think about this thought? Because even with, I know Singletary, or maybe in big moments, got tackled a lot by individual defenders. But again, I go back to that stat, like especially from the 2021 season, Harris was 46th in broken tackles plus missed tackles forced per attempt. Devin Singletary was 5th. Singletary was at 21.3%. Harris was at 12.9. So maybe, again, there are different styles of runner. And I think maybe late in the game, you'll see more of those broken tackle pieces. But I think that's maybe an aspect of Singletary's game that maybe he's not being appreciated for.
Yeah. And I said, as soon as they signed Harris, I said, don't get it twisted. Motor's a better running back. I believe Motor's a better running back than Damien Harris. Even with that 2021 season, I do think Motor is better as a pure running back and making people miss and elusiveness. Now, again, Harris is a different type of back, so I get it. So I would disagree. I don't think Singletary got tackled by one defender all that often. And in fact, one of the things I didn't like about Harris was that there were times at the second and third level where he'd be one-on-one with a safety, and we're going to watch it in the film, and he couldn't put a move on the guy to get beyond that third level. So
if he's getting past the second or third level, it's because he went through someone. There's very little shake, very little wiggle. He's not setting anybody up. Like maybe he leans one way so that he can try and run through your shoulder going the other way and kind of create that shoulder vulnerability. But yeah, he's not going to make the guy miss in the phone booth. If he's breaking a big run, it's because he made a cut and got through clean, or it's because he ran through someone. You're not going to see that shake.
Yeah, and Pops Mafia says Harris' skill makes the running back room more well-rounded. That's it. And that's why you can't, again, with what they paid him and the money, and then what he brings, like contrasting style to this running back room. I like it. It's fine. Initially I didn't like it as far as, again, it didn't move the needle, but it's a nice contrast when you look at some of the film and some of the advanced metrics when it comes to that. All right, so let's.
And honestly, it doesn't matter because when they take Bijan in the first round, both Cook and Harris are going to be second and third to him, and they won't even see the ball.
Yeah, right. All right, let's get into some of his film. We're going to start with Harris.
Eric, as you do that, let's kind of touch on that topic briefly.
Yeah.
With the signing of Harris and adding it to the backfield with James Cook, do you think this move precludes the Bills from addressing running back in the draft again this year?
I mean, let's wrap this all together. The guys they brought in on offense, wide receiver, running back, offensive line, they're probably going to sign more in that regard. It doesn't preclude them. That's the word of the this month. Like, no. And there's a reason why these guys are getting 1-year deals. There's a reason why these guys are getting paid under $2 million a year. There's a reason why they were still available in this second wave of free agency. So don't get it twisted when it comes to that. This just allows Brandon Beane to let the board fall the way he wants it to, and let it come to him. So then when they get on the clock, well, guess what? Who they want, it's going to stand out that much more. They'll have a cluster of 2 or 3 guys, and then they'll make that decision. It does not preclude them from going ahead and getting a running back, a wide receiver, or an offensive lineman.
Exactly. I just wanted that echoed. I just made a joke when they signed Harris. I was like, oh, Bijan and Harris can learn the playbook together. Haha. And so many people were like that. Well, one, they didn't pick up the sarcasm, but 2, they were like, that's so dumb. Now that they have Harris, there's no need to get another running back. And I was like, I don't think that's what this move is. The same with like Hardy and Sherfield. I like those additions. I don't think, if Jackson Smith and Jigba falls in the first round, I think they take Jax. Like, I don't think that precludes them from taking a receiver either. I just wanted to get some backup on that, so I appreciate you. Let's dive into the film.
No problem. Real quick, and before we dive into the film, we're not able to do these type of things, like bring up some of the stats from PFF, SIS, Next Gen, use the Telestrator and Huddle without you guys helping to support Cover One. So real quick, if you guys aren't insiders, make sure to get to our website, sign up for access, become an insider. We have a lot of behind the scenes stuff. We have the Slack channel. We have our, it's our Cover One community. It's awesome. We talk football in there all day. And you'll get obviously a t-shirt and sticker here, and you can see a bunch of those things. Our man AJ dropped the link in the comments. Please support us, give us a hand, come talk football with us all day in our Slack channel. It's the best part about being an insider. So again, we wouldn't be able to do this film room session and have these type of tools and resources without people like yourselves that support us. So if you're not an insider, smash that link and join up so that we can, again, do these type of in-depth breakdowns. There's no one doing it like we do it. Let's be honest here. There's no one that does it like this. So with that said, we appreciate all of you. Now let's get to some film. So starting with Harris in the backfield here, we always talked about, we talked about the next gen stats, getting more than what is blocked up. Look at the vision on this play. If he goes inside here on this lead, there's really nothing there. All the gaps are filled, but you can see the vision, how he's able to kick it out wide here on this run. And he gets outside Sauce Gardner and gets an explosive run. Again, getting more than what's blocked up. You got to be able to do that as running back.
He's got several of these runs in his bag these past couple of years where you hit it like all of a sudden it's just a quick turn in the head, and this time he uses that jump cut. Sometimes he's just putting one foot in the ground and he's getting through. For a guy who's not very bursty or overly athletic or explosive, I do think he has good lateral agility, especially around the line of scrimmage, and it allows him to pull off some of these jump cuts and these lateral moves where he's just planting off one foot, gaining a couple yards horizontally in order to get back upfield. And again, this is what he's got that ability to do, and then turn it up once he gets outside.
Yeah, a nice run there. Again, that inside is not blocked up. They're gapped out, and there's nothing there. And we talked about how he likes to slip tackles, and he doesn't just slip tackles here. He leaves bodies on the ground.
This one
inside run here, but this is again more of that downhill run, a little counter to, and usually this is like a duo. So usually you're getting him outside here, and he's up versus a corner. But you can see that the corner or the defensive back has really good leverage there. So he cuts it back inside after slipping that tackle right there. You can see him. Slips that tackle, and then watch him go to work there. Very good strength, core strength, hip strength, and leg drive, and just again leaving bodies on the ground of a very, very good defense. Don't disregard the power that he runs with. It's so good. And this is again, look at the box. There's 8 in the box here. This is the type of tone-setting physical presence that McDermott has wanted for many years. I'm sure Bean kind of wanted this from Zach Moss in many ways, but you see the downhill run, whether it's 4-minute, 2-minute to end the game. This is the type of presence that McDermott has been yearning for on the offensive side of the ball. There's no doubt about it.
And Bean mentioned it, when was it, last week, when talking about some of the free agent acquisitions, and he specifically mentioned like having a running back above 200 pounds and, you know, what they were kind of looking for in the backfield. And Harris ticks that box from a weight perspective, but also from a stylistic perspective. You don't want a big back just to have a big back. You want them to be able to have that physicality and be able to break those tackles. And what I like about this one, he avoids the trash at the line of scrimmage. Like, one of his dudes is on the ground, and he steps over him and then also plants his foot outside his other man who's on the ground. Like, there's a lot of opportunity for, if you're not picking up your feet and running through the hole properly, this is why you do those bag drills when you pick your feet. There's a lot of opportunity for him to get tripped up and fall as he gets through the hole. Not only does that not happen as he gets through the hole, but then he breaks an arm tackle at the line of scrimmage while he's not completely grounded. And then, like we talked about, this is where his benefit comes in getting to the second level, and you're seeing him run through guys. But again, this also is indicative of his style in a potential negative way. He's not juking anybody. He's not sidestepping anybody. There's no shake. He's got two hands on the ball, and he's running through shoulders and running through arm tackles. So you will see from time to time where it looks like there's all this space, and he'll get brought down by the first guy or the second guy. And then you're going to be like, oh, there was so much more meat left on the bone. But when it works, it's beautiful. And as that comment said, he's going through I like the New York jokes.
I never heard that one. I like that.
I haven't either. I like that. But bring the heat on that one. Like Swiss cheese, like full of holes. Like, and these aren't missed tackles because like these guys are already kind of getting blocked. Like, he's literally just running through defenders. And that's a beautiful thing whenever it happens, but especially, again, marry it with that potential, Eric, like you said, in the 2-minute or 4-minute or third quarter or fourth quarter, whatever have you, when you can lean on guys physically when they're tired and they don't want to hit anymore, and you got a hammer like that. It's really nice.
Yeah, and this is a similar play against the Jets as well, just a different game. Duo run, so they're washing everyone down. He's reading Mosley. Mosley's firing the gap there, so he's now going to kick it outside. And normally, again, this is where you want to bounce, but watch how he reads the block in the lane right here. That entry point, it's smooth on this play. Really nice little jump cut, north and south. And then right here, you see the feet. He's got like some pitter-patter. Again, to me, that's a little indecisiveness, but I mean, he makes it work. He makes that guy miss, gets north and south, gets another big run on this duo run. And this is a run that last year was Devin Singletary's run. This is the type of style and concept that Devin Singletary ran, and now the Bills are going to rely on Damien Harris, not Damian Lewis, to do that. So nice run here against the Jets. Again, divisional opponent. He averaged 5.2 yards per attempt against the AFC East.
And sometimes that's legitimate. Like, the Eagles have it with Boston Scott. Like, he just seems to crush the Giants every single time he steps on the field. And you've got that with Harris against the AFC East. I love the jump cut at the line of scrimmage from an efficiency footwork perspective. I like when he reads it here and you see him, he's already airborne. And as soon as he lands, right foot plant, left foot gets upfield and sets him on that path straight ahead. It's very quick. It's decisive feet. It's efficient feet. And then I love the indecision comment you made with him bearing down on Whitehead. It's very reminiscent of the NFL combine drill where you're running and the instructor is sitting there with the bag and you're just doing feet and he moves it left or right. And once he does, you make the cut and go. It's almost like he's waiting for Whitehead to declare. Whitehead doesn't. So finally he's like, oh, okay, I got to make a move. And then he does. But that right there is the biggest amount of like shake or wiggle. That's his juke move right there. Like, again, his go-to is usually running through a shoulder. He's got enough pitter patter and feet to get through sometimes, but ideally he's running through people like he continues to do in this clip here.
Yeah, another duo run. This time he doesn't keep it front side. He finds that backside lane. Really nice play because you can see this defender right here is compressing that lane. And you would think, hey, I'm just going to get north and south here. But he does a great job of finding that backside gap right there beyond 93. And then he gets north and south. Again, getting more than what is blocked up on this play. So really nice work from him with everyone. Look, everyone compressed that gap, right? So he found daylight. That's all you ask of your running back. Find daylight. Make the most out of what is given to you.
And that's so important on a run like duo as well, right? Where you're trying to get that run to go front side, but if it's unable to go front side, you need to have the vision and the urgency physically and mentally to be able to bring that backside in whatever way. And, majority of the time, it's that linebacker and you're reading that backer. And if he's committing front side, you're trying to wind it back to the backside. This time it's because of the penetration up front. And then again, what do we have? Him breaking tackles.
Look at that lean
Yes,
forward.
that forward lean. I think that's also part of the reason why he's not a big like jukey guy, because he's always got that kind of that forward lean. Like he's looking to run through people. He's looking to break tackles. And that'll help in these instances in general, but especially in that short yardage. That guy who is consistently falling forward, is breaking tackles. If it's blocked for 1, he's going to get you 2 or 3. If it's blocked for 2, he can get you 4. This one, you see it because of the physicality and the vision combined with the feet. And it's nice, again, especially in a type of run that the Bills use.
Right. And so this is, again, one of his strong physical runs with a fullback in the backfield. So watch how this transpires. They wipe that guy out, wash him down. It's a little cross dog blitz. Here comes Deion Jones. Nice read there. You see the helmet on the inside. Good block.
I love Jakob Johnson.
And you can see his eyes are out here, but obviously he takes it up inside there. He reads those blocks really well. He knows how to set up those blocks on those downhill lead type runs. And then right here, you can see him running through another arm tackle. That DB doesn't lead with his shoulder. You see him lead with his arms, and that's not going to bring down Harris here when he has that type of lean and uses offhand like that. And then just really good finish, leaning forward, covering the ball up and finishing 3-4 yards down the field after that first contact with guys just draped over the top of him.
One of my favorite pieces about him is when he does get to the second and third level, he makes defensive backs work on every single rep, whether he's carrying guys that are draped on him, like you mentioned, or he's breaking tackles. Like, you have to come with proper form. You have to come with some impact, or he's going to run through you or carry you for a couple extra yards. Like, he should, in theory, kind of be dead to rights here. Like, 21 is in good position. He's squared up. He came downhill under control. But because he's still on his heels a little bit and he moves into this tackle horizontally, he gets Harris in his lower body, and Harris just puts a thigh and a knee right into 21's chest and shoulder and just runs through him and then continues to keep on trucking. Again, an aspect that if this was Singletary, he's trying to get to 21 and he's trying to shake him. It's pure shake. Like, that's what it's going to be. We're not saying one is necessarily better than the other, but this is Damien Harris in a nutshell. He gets to this spatial level with all that opportunity. What's he trying to do after he makes the first level move? It's a little shake in the feet, but it's just trying to attack a shoulder and run through a guy.
And even though they were, on the dot in the eye, they loved running this crack toss. Again, getting that defense vertically or moving horizontally across the field, and then watch the cutback right there. And then he finds that daylight. Like, you can see it split right there. And then he's not done. You better, you better bring it, because he's going to run guys over when he cuts north and south. Finds the daylight, knocks that guy over, puts him on his ass. And then again, 3 or 4 or 5 yards more after that contact.
His cutback game, you mentioned it in the lead in terms of one of his skill set pieces that you liked. It's up there for me as well, whether it's on some zone runs or these crack tosses. Like, I like how he's able to work it back, and whether, sometimes it's just one cut and he plants and he goes. This time we see a little bit more of that pitter patter, but he still recognizes it. Like, and for a guy who really only has, like we've talked about, has one pace, he does have some good patience and is able to read and kind of let the play flow and develop a bit. And you've highlighted the alley right there with the little yellow markers. That's where that hole is going to start to develop. And he times it perfectly. He reads it well. And then again, defensive back coming to try and make a tackle and just runs through him. And this isn't even like Harris putting his shoulder down and trying to run through him. He's still coming off of that initial cut and breaking that initial tackle right by Hunter Henry, because he gets kind of bounced a little bit and gets put off center and off kilter. So he's not even in great position to break this tackle. He just breaks it because he's a hard runner and he's strong and has that good center of gravity. Like, this isn't a great tackle breaking position as a runner. Like, he's bouncing off and gets hit again. But because he runs so strong and makes DBs work for everything, it ends up with a truck stick moment.
And I love,
Yeah.
yeah, you said it right. He's not really in a position to make this guy miss, but watch him cover up for contact.
Yep.
But
Smart.
then watch as he progresses through this. Watch that offhand. Again, I talked about in the last play. The offhand, he pushes that guy down. Starts with his forearm, then ends with his hand. Pushes that guy down to the turf. So very good job of covering the ball up on contact. Oh, okay. My momentum has knocked this guy onto his ass. I'm going to finish him by driving him down with my offhand. And again, then dragging the guy for an extra few yards on the play. I just love his cutbacks. Here's another one.
Yeah.
This one is a touchdown against the Titans. Crack toss. There's a lane. You see it develop out there. This is the thing. You've seen it on 3 plays now. He's because his speed and his vision isn't the best. It's not his strongest trait. He runs into his guys a lot. You saw it in the one play up the middle where he ran into the wide receiver who was push cracking. You saw it on that last play a little bit where the tight end kind of bumps him. He runs into his tackle here, but again, keeps his balance, gets back north and south, and he's able to finish that run on this crack toss. Again, this is a really nice run, a red zone run for right around the 15-yard line. He smells the end zone. He will not be stopped.
It's almost like he's not satisfied unless he gets hit by somebody. And if the defense isn't going to do it, he's like, you know what, fine, I'll just run into one of my own teammates and I'll take care of it myself. Again, good vision, good feet on this one, but tying it in with what is he not? He's not the biggest athlete. He's not the most explosive. Like a better athlete at running back, exactly on that track you have highlighted right there, might be able to put his foot in the ground and silkily and smoothly get right
Avoid
around
his man.
Yeah, exactly. And get up the sideline instead of running into Trent Brown and almost putting him on the ground. But
it
again,
helped him.
It helped him a little bit.
Yeah, because you can see him right here at the goal line.
Propels him forward a little bit. Maybe he was playing the long con and setting his block up later down the field. That's exactly it. That's what we're going with. So let's retcon that. That's exactly what he was trying to do. But it speaks to, again, that skill set. Like he's got that power. He's able to recover. He stands tall, continues to grind through. So again, you don't have to have a specific skill set or a specific ability. And that's the big thing too. Like, I feel like we really want to get across, like, just because we mentioned some of the cons or some of the things he can't do, that doesn't mean he's not good. That doesn't mean he's not effective. It just means he wins in different ways.
Yeah. And that's the thing, guys have strengths and weaknesses. We try to bring it from both sides. When we're talking a lot of these guys, whether prospects or guys in the league or reviewing games, he's got a good cutback, but there are times where he does just run into his own men. And we talk about slipping tackles, man. I thought this was really his best film, and these are more zone runs. So these are more type of stuff that obviously Cromer has a lot of reps in, a lot of experience in. But this really was some really good vision in this game versus the Dolphins. Again, a divisional opponent. Look at him find that lane right there, slip the tackle of Phillips and get north and south. I really liked his running on inside zone. I think it was his 3rd highest concept as far as runs go last year. Inside zone, man, and lead were top 3. I really liked his vision in this game. There's a couple clips that we're going to show, but this inside lane right here was really tight, but he's able to slip the tackle right there at the line of scrimmage. And just watch his shoulders when that contact's coming at the line of scrimmage. You can see him just slide his shoulders off, shrug that guy off, and then get into the 2nd and 3rd level.
And he's able to reduce his surface area a bit when he gets through the hole, which also helps. And then with his strength and, his center of gravity, I think it helps him slip those arm tackles even more. I love the comment that you had about zone. When looking at the numbers initially when he signed, they were heavy gap like I anticipated. But when watching him run in these zone concepts, he was a better zone runner than I think I anticipated, which made me like the fit even more for the Bills, knowing how they leaned into more of that zone run scheme with James Cook down the stretch. And so we know what Harris can do from a gap perspective, but seeing him be able to function like this in zone, I think it's less of a tendency giveaway, less of a tell when he's in that game. And when he's able to display this vision, it's nice. But again, tied to it with the physicality piece, this is a nice one too, right? To be able to cut back multiple gaps and multiple holes, get forward, break another tackle from Jalen Phillips once again, run like you're running through an arm tackle of a big defensive end. Like that's some good power from a running back.
Yeah. And again, look at the gap integrity here. Everyone's covered up. Now he's got to decide, am I going to hit this gap or this gap here? And we'll see why he does that. Because you could see that defender flowing over the top of I think it's the right tackle here. He's flowing this way. You can see his helmet start to come that way. So you can see why he cut it all the way back. Some really nice footwork too. Again, not really his thing, but that's some nice gather steps right there to get square to line of scrimmage. And then again, right there, you see the shoulder. Just he knows that Phillips is going to get his arm on him. He already turns his shoulder, expecting that. Again, slips that tackle, that shrinking of the surface, as you said, shrinks his surface there, and then gets north and south on that zone run. These are the type of things that he does really well. Again, when he is going through the line of scrimmage, and there are those arms hanging out there, especially those teams like the Dolphins, the Patriots now, and even some of the Jets defenders. Those long arms are just, maybe their eyes aren't in the hole or on the ball, but their arms are out there, and as soon as a running back hits it, they can wrap them up. He is able to shrink his surface area to get through it, and get some yardage into the second and third level. Now, a few of the things I didn't like, we talked about it, his pace. He's an urgent running back, and sometimes he is a little too urgent, needs to show a little patience. On this play, his offensive lineman gives him a helmet outside here, so he should actually be coming out here. That guy kicked him inside, logged him is what we call it. He should be getting out there. He doesn't, and he probably sees this defender coming down, but that's a defensive back, man. Like, don't worry about him. Get up into the hole, follow your blocks, because now you go up north and south there, and guess what happens? They have leverage on you, and they're able to slow that play down. So his urgency is great for what the Bills are going to use him for, but there are times when that urgency and that pace needs to be throttled down a little bit, and not just get to the line of scrimmage. Let the play develop. Let your blocks develop, especially on these gap runs.
I think that's something that, as we break down potentially a bunch of Bills film this year featuring Damien Harris, I think there will be those plays, whether it's on the broadcast or us here in the film room, where fans are going to point out and be like, oh, look how much space there was if he would have just bounced it here, or if he would have just waited another half a second. But again, that's tied into the creativity piece, right? He's kind of like, see hole, hit hole type of dude, and he will be able to, jump gaps. He does have that jump cut ability and that lateral ability tied into his vision. But for the most part, he gets the ball, he sees the hole, he wants to hit it, he wants to get forward, he's got that urgency. That's what that no-nonsense runner is. And a lot of times, again, it's meant complimentary, but when you are a no-nonsense guy, it means sometimes you are going to be in a situation where your lack of creativity shows to potentially bust a bigger play.
Yeah, and here's another one up the middle versus the Jets. Mosley comes down, but you can see there's a nice gap there. Like, don't mess around, get north and south, right? Use that urgency, but he doesn't quite, as he plants with that left foot right there, and he gets north and south, that defender from the backside of the run, Rankins, is able to tackle him. This is the type of player where I want to see that burst, get north and south, and get beyond that first level, but use your speed, not your break tackle ability.
Yeah, and this is the run maybe like you're sitting there thinking like, does James Cook get through this hole already? Like, is he already through that line because he has that pace and he has that speed? That's going to be the downside of that type of style from time to time. And even with Rankins, coming down on him like a big defensive tackle, bodying him like that, he's still able to kind of fall forward a little bit, which is still impressive. But yeah, you lack that initial burst and that ability to separate at the line. And if he's usually, even when he separates at the line, it's because it somehow starts with him breaking an arm tackle and then getting to the second level. And if he can't, it'll kind of be dead in the water.
And here's another one where he has a pulling guard, again, backside guard, single back power run, and he's urgent. He wants to get up the field. And this is another one of those plays where he's got a huge hole right up in here.
I was gonna say, just set it up, plan on that right foot and cut it back inside. Like this, Cole Strange is leading.
I mean, look at this. They're washing it. Yeah, dude, it's money. This is a big play.
I would say, Eric, you played running back. Like I played running back. This is RB like 101. Like you're in drills. Like you can see that linebacker flowing. Set him up outside and pop it back inside and get north and south. And it's frustrating to see the meat left on the bone here.
And that's why I said I like him reading blocks with a fullback right in front of him, because he can kind of control and throttle that fullback and set up the block. But when he's coming from the backside guards pulling, and he's trying to read him on an angle, which running from the dot, which is if they're, in I formation like that, running from the dot is a lot different than running from gun, where he's here. The vision is different, and how you set up blocks is different because you're obviously running horizontally. It's a lot different for a running back. And in many ways, a lot of running backs will say that running from gun is easier because you're not processing as much from being next to the quarterback. But this is one of those plays, like he's got to process this better. He's got to set up his block better. Look, he's right up the butt of him. Again, that's
Yeah.
where you got to throttle down, have some patience, let that block unfold, because if you let it unfold, there's a big play here. And again, this is only a safety you're going to have to beat, and you may get 6 points.
And because he's, like you said, he's right up the ass of Cole Strange, he doesn't even if he doesn't set up the block, if he's back a little farther from Cole Strange, he gives CJ Mosley the opportunity to declare. And then it makes his opportunity to either cut left or right potentially easier if you make that linebacker declare. But because he's so tight and because he's so urgent, this time in a more con or a negative way, it limits what he could have gotten in this run. And again, this isn't a horrible run. He still gets past the line of scrimmage and gets a decent amount, probably about like a 5-yard gain, which is still a positive, but it's knowing that what potentially could have been. But again, that's the yin and the yang of a running back of this style.
Yes, and these are things that the coaching staff has to take into account when they are, designing these game plans. And hey, he's getting 10 to 12 touches a game or 7 to 10 touches a game. Do we want him running single back power from shotgun? Probably not. Will they? Yes, to offset tendencies, but it's not really his strength. I want to see him in the I formation. Being running backs, like old school I formation, where he's coming downhill with Gilliam in front of him, and some of those wind back plays that Cromer loves to run, where he starts one way and almost counters back and has Gilliam lead on the inside linebacker. Whew, those are tone setters, man. And that's the element that, he's going to bring to this offense. And that's the element when in the presser, he was talking about, what I'm here to do. The fans know, the coaches know, the opposing teams know. That's why he said that. Everyone knows what he brings, and that's that physical tone, that physical presence. And we've been missing that in many ways. They've been missing it. And so that's why we like the contrast that he brings to the Bills offense.
I love that physicality piece. And especially when you pair it with, I don't know, maybe like 2 potential starting guards, like, again, I don't know, I'm just spitballing, like a Ryan Bates or a Connor McGovern who, I don't know, maybe like might be good athletes and maybe might be good on the move and maybe might be good pullers. And you pair that with an athletic, physical sledgehammer fullback and Reggie Gilliam. Again, it's another dynamic. It's another element to this offense. And then all of a sudden, if that starts to get clicking and defenses have to honor it, then the play action game comes into play, which we know the Bills love to do and Josh Allen is very good at. It's just another little wrinkle, another opportunity for this offense, whether in a vacuum or on the surface level or because of what it can connect to. Yeah, again, so don't get too caught up in how he compares to Devin Singletary, because ironically they are very similar. Forget about that. Just think about what he is as a player, what he offers, what he brings. It's a different dynamic. It's good. It complements and pairs well with James Cook and what the Bills offense has been. And it gives them another opportunity to take advantage of defenses and be one more element that defenses have to plan for. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, happens to the best of us. That hasn't happened to you in a while. It's gotten me a bunch out of it. It hasn't happened to you in a long time.
Rarely happens. Yeah.
I know.
And before we move on to Sherfield here, I do want to say we appreciate everyone joining us. 140 strong right now. Hit that like button. Make sure you're a subscriber and leave us a comment. It goes a long way to getting, obviously, this content that we put a ton of work onto the eyes and in front of the eyes of other Bills fans and NFL fans for that matter. Because that's what's funny is like a lot of the film breakdowns we've done over the last month, a lot of the other fan bases are eaten up because those guys signed with those other teams. So we appreciate everyone joining us, and make sure to hit that like button, leave us a comment as well. So with that said, man,
and it may seem small, but you would be surprised how much 5 likes or 10 likes go towards helping a video to track and trend and to get affected by the algorithm. So it may seem tiny or like it's not a big deal, but it is, and we appreciate the hell out of it.
And I don't want to keep mispronouncing his name. Is it Trent Sherfield or Sherfield? Sherfield. Okay. Let's move on to him. Let's talk about him.
Maybe he changed it though. Like Bobby Okereke was Bobby Okereke, and now he's Bobby Okereke. And
I know.
Yeah, right. Like what is going on?
Let's dive into some of his stats, some of his strengths and weaknesses now. As I bring up some of the PFF stats here. The things I really liked about him, man, was he was a good blocker. All right. I have some clips, but that's not where I wanted to go direction wise with this. I do have some clips. If you guys are interested in those run blocking clips, I did a video on him. It's like a 13, 14-minute video profiling a lot of those blocks. He's a very good blocker. I'll just tell you that. Again, his PFF grades are great too. And when it comes to that, and I think guys were saying he graded out as the top run blocker in that regard. But for me, what is so exciting about him as a wide receiver are his hands. Yes, hands for wide receiver are quite important. Hands. Reliable hands, especially in traffic, especially over the middle. And I was so impressed with how well he worked those zone coverages over the middle. And the quarterback would throw him almost into a defender, almost hospital ball type, fringe hospital ball. And he's able to reel it in, absorb the hit, continue on, get some yak. He makes those difficult catches in traffic over the middle and carries onward. And that's something we've talked about in several film rooms now, right, Ant? Josh didn't quite have, that reliable target over the middle, not just with volume, but reliable target from a perspective of, hey, he's going to catch the ball in that zone and then protect the ball and maybe even get a few yards after the catch. I think that's what he does really well as far as the positives for Sherfield there. What are your thoughts on him as far as his strengths go?
Similar boat. It started for me again. It's not going to be the sexiest thing. I like the blocking. I like what he can do hipped, to the formation and how he can just wash down safeties and bury them or even dig out some backers or safeties at the second level as well. He's a good downfield blocker on screens or on runs in general. He will stay in phase with his man. He will stay square. He will latch and he will drive. I like the speed that he offers. He doesn't seem like he's the biggest burner, but he's got that ability to take it to the house. I know everybody and their mother at this point has probably seen the touchdown against the San Francisco 49ers from this year where he catches that ball in the middle of the field on the RPO and houses it. I like the combination of everything. I like his size. I like his frame. I like that he plays special teams. I like that he's a well-rounded depth receiver who can function in a variety of ways. You can put him in the slot. You can put him outside as a Z receiver. He's even got some athleticism where he can win jump balls in the corner of the end zone. It's another piece that adds a new dynamic to this Bills offense. And I'm not saying he's dynamic, but what he can do, it's a nice depth piece that the Bills really haven't had in terms of what hats he can wear and where you can lean into. And again, tying into that point, I don't want to bang home too much that you mentioned. Just his ability, his frame, I think, lends itself to him being able to survive those hits over the middle and stand tall. And he makes those catches, improves that reliability, especially for a quarterback this past year like Tua, who timing was so important and trust was so important, and being in the right window at the right moment was so important. The fact that he did that and tying it into a point you mentioned earlier in the beginning, going from two good offenses, the Shanahan offense and then the Mike McDaniel offense, I think it speaks to his ability that Mike McDaniel brought him with him to Miami, like somebody who knows the system, but who can also be effective in that way. And when you've got a really good offensive mind buying into you as a player, I think that speaks well for what that player could be.
Right. And so we're looking at some of his PFF stats, and he had 30 receptions for 417 yards and 2 touchdowns. But listen to this. I talked about how he was primarily their go-to guy when they saw zone coverage. So of those 30 receptions, 417 yards and 2 touchdowns, 23 receptions out of 366 yards and 2 touchdowns were against zone coverages. And you're going to see some of those tonight in the film room. Again, really good offense, a lot of wide open type looks, but a wide open looks versus zone coverage. And he's able to maximize, obviously, his play. So that's why, when I say he was primarily their zone guy, 23 receptions and 366 yards, and both of his touchdowns were against zone. So he was their zone beater, wide receiver. Some of the negatives I didn't like, and we're going to show a few of them. I'd like to see a little variance in his releases. He doesn't quite have a release package. He lets the DBs go ahead and take some of the speed off of his crossing routes, which it's tough because he's got good speed overall, mid 4.4s, but sometimes he lets that nickel defender get a piece of him at the top of that break when he's running that crossing route, that over route, and they take some speed off it. And then you lose that separation, that speed that he built up to go across. And then there are times when body catching is good, but there are times where on film, you see him catch it with his body when he didn't really need to. Like catching it in traffic when you're about to get hit by 2 guys, like body catches are okay. And it doesn't hurt him. Honestly, I will say it doesn't hurt him because obviously he had 2 drops in the last 70 targets, like
And
over the last 2
one of them
years.
was on that screen against the Bills on that Saturday night
Right,
game in Buffalo. He dropped a touchdown with, so maybe he
right.
was playing for the Bills already back then.
So, I mean, those are some of the things I didn't like. I mean, do you have a couple negatives before I bring up the film, or what do you got?
Yeah, you touched on some of them. For me, him as a route runner, there's not a ton of suddenness or sharpness or decisiveness in his routes. Especially if you're going into like ones with multiple parts in the stem. But again,
Right.
I think you lean into his strength, which is that ability to find space in zone or use that speed and be, whether it's just a clear out guy to make space underneath or find that zone, a soft spot in the deep intermediate or the middle of the field. I think you just lean into that and kind of rock with it.
Right. And so let's get into some of the film here. We're going to start with his strengths here. So this was when he was in San Francisco. And if you
Mhm.
guys, as I let this roll, you guys should recognize this route concept, this whip route from him at the top of the screen. See him
Good
return back
route.
out to the boundary, and then Debo's running the deep over. The Bills ran this to Cole Beasley. They've run this to Diggs. You have that whip route from the outside guy, and then that deep over. It's a 1-2 read from Josh Allen to Diggs and Beasley. He threw it to Knox against the Dolphins, but
Mm.
this was actually one of those routes where he did a good job of setting it up. And I like
Mhm.
the release here. I talked about he needs to expand on it, but this little stagger right here, this two-way go, this is setting up as if you're a slot defender. He can really release outside or inside here. He's really got that DB guessing. He plants and goes inside, and he sells that in breaking route and then just pivots back out to the boundary, creates that separation, and gets 6 points.
I found this play from the receiver school Twitter account and retweeted it and gave him credit. And receiver school came back and answered. And the way he explained this route, or what he, like, tagline he gave it, I thought it was beautiful. He said, if you're not selling, they're not buying.
Mm-hmm.
And he sells the over on this route really well. I like how his body language, like if you had it like pause right there, it looks like he's running an over. And so if you pair that with what Debo's doing to the defense, it's like, okay, are they running some kind of mesh? Like, what are we getting
Yeah.
here?
This is
He's
a low red zone beater right there. So you're right. Yeah.
exactly. And so the corner has to honor that. And on top of it, he's got that body lean where it looks like he's looks like he's running horizontally. He's going on that drag out over the middle of the field. He looks at the quarterback and you see the angle the corner is taken. He's thinking like, okay, like I got to meet him going on that drag route. And then he just puts his feet into the ground and is able to pop out with some of that explosion and that ability. That's legitimate separation. There is no one around him. And it's not because, oh my God, what a physical specimen, or oh my God, what an amazing play call. He sold the hell out of that route. And we
Yeah.
talk about it all the time. Like if you're running a stop or a hitch, sell it like you're running a vertical and then do the opposite. He sells and he lies on that route, and the defender bites hook, line, and sinker, and it creates a ton of separation.
Right. And I talked about his reliability over the middle and the fearlessness you'll see on this play. So he's working on that linebacker over the middle, right? That's the advantage for the offense. And Tua throws him over the middle, but you can see him. He throws out ahead of him, almost
Yeah.
leading him into a big hit. And he
Hospital
does
pass.
take the big hit, but he's able to reel that in. Again, this takes some brass right here to make a catch like this in traffic, knowing that a hit's coming. He's not afraid to do it. Like that is what this offense has been missing. As much as we talk about Dawson Knox being a talented guy, he's not a guy that separates over the middle. He's not a guy that catches the ball all that well over the middle, and reliability is kind of inconsistent at times. So having a guy that you can bump inside with his size and speed and get these mismatches, but also
Mhm.
most of all, catching the ball, that is what the Bills have needed in many ways over the middle of the field.
Yeah, it's almost like Sherfield is sure-handed, but
Oh,
look at
wow.
me. All right, that's it for me. I'm out for the night. Enjoy doing the show by yourself. Yeah, it's nice to see the mismatch potential up against the linebacker, separates, creates space. And again, even though this isn't the 80s or 90s NFL anymore, it's still somewhat dangerous to go over the middle and you can get popped. This is a clean hit from the defender, and even more so, like you said, Tua kind of gives him a hospital pass here. Like he has to extend full extension with his arms outstretched over the middle of the field. He's put into a precarious position, but I like how he snags it, immediately tucks it, and you see him start to turn. So one, he protects himself, but he does it after he secures the catch. And he all of it adds together as he knows he's going to get hit. And that's huge. You will still see guys, again, even though it's not the NFL that it used to be, dudes will flinch when they go over the middle of the field. And we've seen it hurt the Bills in particular, we've seen it hurt Josh Allen sometimes in minor moments, sometimes in big moments. And when it happens to you, several times, it leads to you, Eric, like what we've talked about so much.
Yeah, kind of losing you there, Ant.
Oh, you losing me? Am I back now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. When you don't have that faith in your options over the middle of the field, it can remove that area of the field for you in terms of where you're going to attack. We've highlighted it multiple times on the show with Josh Allen. I think he's a step in the right direction towards kind of gaining some of that faith back for Allen in the middle of the field.
Definitely, man. Here's another one. This is a little more vertical. He's working from the slot, and there's some really good coverage by the DB and trail technique there. He's undercutting it with this, too safety or too high look. This is a catch in traffic, but at the end, you see him right there. I love how he doesn't just keep running here when he sees it and he has to adjust to the ball. You're going to watch him flatten this out and almost work back just a little bit at the end of this play, working back to the ball, using his body to shield himself and the ball from that defender. Just really good work at the top of this route, right at the catch point. I just like how he worked back to the ball on this, even though it was a vertical route.
I love how you said flatten. It's almost like he's an edge defender going around the arc and he flattens to kind of go after the quarterback. Like, that's smart, that's savvy. He could have easily just kind of continued his route and hoped that the ball would meet him, but he reads the trajectory of the pass, and him working back 100% makes this catch. Like, he works back through Sutton to go and get that ball. Like, he's attacking the ball in there, and you'll see that from him from time to time, whether it's even when he's letting the ball into his body, or there's a couple plays where he high points the football. Like, he demonstrates that ability to kind of go and get it and not wait and let the ball come to him. And that right there, it may seem like, I'm sure the broadcast was talking about what an amazing throw from Tua, but that play is made by the receiver. That's a quarterback friendly play on a ball that wasn't, tremendously placed.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And here's again one of those open type plays right here up the seam. This is something that the Dolphins ran a lot of versus the Bills and other teams when they were in these cover 3 type looks, right? They would sneak this receiver right here and force a change on the defense, this guy to bump out, and it opened this seam right here. So I like how, Sherfield recognizes it, gets his eyes to the quarterback. Tua hits him. But again, Tua throws him. This is traffic right here. John Johnson's lining him up from his safety position, but he's able to reel it in, absorb the hit and secure the ball. And then it doesn't end there. He knocks Johnson on his ass, and then he's able to get some yards after the catch. Really, really nice play. Another, catch in traffic, securing the ball, and then getting some yards after the catch.
This is my favorite play of his that we have queued up and that I saw in kind of going through the film this past season from him. The Bills haven't had this type of the power slot option in this offense. Their slot receivers have been the Cole Beasleys, the Isaiah McKenzie's, more of that traditional kind of Smurf type of receiver. So to have a receiver who can function in the run game and be a mismatch blocking against slot corners or safeties and even match up against edges and linebackers, but then who also has the frame to survive this type of contact from a legitimately, hard-hitting safety who also has the advantage. Like, look at Sherfield there. Like, he's completely vulnerable. Like, he is the nail and Johnson is the hammer, and he just turns and bounces off. And not only does he bounce off, he shakes the contact like it's nothing, and then bang, you have it highlighted. He uses the momentum from the hit to turn it upfield and get upfield and get more yards. That's an element this Bills offense hasn't had, and that's the dynamic that we're talking about here. You've got that bigger slot receiver who's the 6'1", over 200 pounds, who can block, but who can also get you those tough yards over the middle and survive that type of contact.
Yeah, and talk about a big play here. Again, down the slot, same thing, right? Motion Tyreek out, force that defense to widen, and then you got the open seam, and he's able to catch the ball here, but then make a move on that safety, and then that's when he's able to open it up. And this, again, he's not the fastest guy, but you can see him. He does have the ability to open it up, especially if he gets that runway. Again, we were going to talk about how defenders disrupt his speed and ability to get the top speed. But this is one of those plays. You get that runway, he's able to make a move and then get into the open field and house it for 6 points.
It's so funny watching this play back now because I remember watching this game live and I was so mad when it happened. And I was like, really? Like, of all people? And he outran everybody. But now I'm watching it back. I'm like, oh my God, this play is great. And yeah, you nailed it. For somebody who's not the fastest type of guy, like there were a couple players on this Niners defense who had the angle on him and he was able to outrun everybody. I also love, not to get too off topic, I love the design of this play. Charvarius Ward is in Sherfield's face like he's about to jam him. And because of that motion of Hill, it causes Ward to back off and it gives Sherfield a clean release, which allows him to work inside even more.
Caught him off guard too. You see him go to that staggered release that we showed a few plays away. He's like, oh, well, we're not impressed.
You could kind of tell the whole time like he was ready, like, all right, I got to beat this press. And then on the snap, he's like, oh, I don't have to beat the press. Oh, I got a clean release. And the athleticism to make this catch and take it to the house. Like, again, another option. What's also nice too is he makes this catch. As soon as he makes the catch, you timed it perfectly here. His eyes are immediately on that safety. He makes the catch. And as soon as he makes the catch, he knows where that safety is. He's IDing him and he's eyeballing him. And that's what allows him to take this angle after he makes the catch. So his ability to quickly process what's going on, knowing what's happening from a coverage standpoint, and then knowing where the defenders are as he catches the ball, he's already making that next move in his mind. And then he physically is able to execute it and take it to the house.
Yeah. And so I talked about he's a 3-level receiver. He can win at all 3 levels. We've seen him on those quick slants, those quick over routes, some option routes inside, whether he's in the boundary or in the slot. Here's one of his touchdowns from last year where he's just running that go route. And I want to highlight this route between him and Tyreek Hill because it's in the Bills offense. So this used to be Cole Beasley's option route. He would run the curl this way or just run an out route, right? And then this would be Gabe Davis. He'd just be running a locked route where he'd just run a goal ball. This is a play that the Bills scored on several times over the last couple of years. Again, this was mainly a Beasley and Davis special, but this is the same type of thing. As Hill gets to the top of that route, this corner is trapping him. So if he runs that out route, he's supposed to trap him, and then this guy's going to work over the top. And that's when that goal ball is in play. And that's, kind of what happens here. That corner plays it flat-footed. Sherfield gets up the top speed, but then watch him slightly push off, track the ball, corner of the end zone, catch it with his hands, and from the end zone angle, watch the boundary awareness. It's remarkable how he's able to reel this pass in along the boundary. Here it is. Drops in, hands, eyes down, looking down at the ground, great body control. The game slows down for him along the boundaries, the sidelines, and the end lines. It slows down for him, and you can see that here in real time as I let it play. His eyes are down. Okay, I got the ball. It's secured. I need to get my feet in. Look at him, toe tap, bam, touchdown. Like, that is beautiful. And again, 3 levels. He can do it at all 3 levels, and he can do it with reliable hands, good body control, and boundary awareness.
The awareness here is so important, right? Like, you have the physical execution, but all of the awareness to put this all together, to go up, to get the ball, to ID the boundary, to toe tap, to bring it all in. And this is going to come from a guy who in this Bills offense at the highest is probably wide receiver 3, but it's probably like wide receiver 3, 4-ish, 5-ish, depending on whatever they do, like offer some special teams value. And then he comes on the field and he's able to be used in all these versatile jack of all trades kind of ways. And this touchdown here, like, this is real. This isn't, gimmicky. This isn't schemed up completely. Like, this is a dude making a play. Like, he has to go up and make a hands catch and then toe tap in the back of the end zone with the defender in close proximity. That's not an easy thing to do. This takes athleticism. It takes hand-eye coordination. And like you said, the awareness. Like, I love that he literally catches the ball and looks down to be like, where am I? Oh, okay, I got enough space. And then taps that right foot. It's clean. It's precise. And again, from a guy who is going to be a depth piece and a chess piece for the Buffalo Bills, like, that's pretty if you're a wide receiver 1, let alone if you're further down the depth chart.
Yeah, I mean, again, I talked about it being a Cole Beasley and Gabe Davis type of play. Well, again, if they can kind of replicate that with him in there, they could replicate that obviously with Gabe still. They could probably replicate it with DeAndre Hopkins when he comes to the Bills. No,
Nice. Well done.
So we highlighted some of the positives. Let's look at some of the areas of opportunity or play, way to improve because as a guy who played he played quarterback for a majority of his upbringing or whatever, and so he's still learning a lot of the wide receiver position from what I remember, if that's correct. But top of the screen versus Humphrey, guys are able to get their hands on him and slow him down. And you can see there's a little indecisiveness on if he wants to release outside, inside, how Humphrey's playing him. Again, Humphrey's a good corner. He's one of the top corners in the league, but you see how he's able to take some speed off that route, and then there's no separation, and they even roll a safety over the top there because Tua's looking at him. So that's the type of stuff that I want to see him improve on, improve that release, the variance to it and the different releases. Don't be so reactive, be proactive in your release, and then don't let guys, get, press on you and let them get their mitts on you to slow you down when you're trying to release and get into your route.
Yeah. And this one also ties into some of the lack of sharpness and decisiveness in his movements. He's a smooth guy. I think he's quicker than he is fast, although we just showed a play of him taking it to the house against the 49ers. But you just see kind of in his movements, and as Humphrey slows him up, like, you just don't see that twitch. You don't see that shake, that sharpness, that suddenness, that ability to, okay, if a guy is mirroring me and has me kind of, locked up or clamped a little bit, do I have that ability to quickly separate or quickly, readjust or adjust in general my path in order to kind of get free? So maybe this is something he tries to lean into more of his physical ability and his frame going forward, but you see some of the limitations in his game in this instance here on this play. Again, against a quality corner, like Humphrey's a corner one. So this is Sherfield up against a corner one. Like, that should be a win for Humphrey, but nonetheless, it shows some of his limitations here.
Right. And again, think about the route he's running. He's running this deep in breaking route, and look at the leverage of Humphrey at the line of scrimmage, kind of shading inside a little bit. So, that he's got it. The wide receiver's got to try to get into his route stem. So he's just not sure how he's going to, to win the line of scrimmage, to get into that in breaking route. Because more times than not, you don't really want to just break inside here and then run that in breaking route. You want to set it up where you're not getting disrupted, because it's more of a speed cut at the top of that route. So again, working on the little things. Here he is in the slot to the bottom. You're going to see him try to run again, that over route right there. And that guy just gets into his hip, takes some speed off of that route, and then he gets the inside hip right there. So as he breaks down right there, that's covered up. There's just nowhere to go there. And that's what I was talking about. Watch how he's in off coverage, then he connects, he attaches, and he just doesn't disconnect from that defender. And that shows up a lot in his film.
This is one where, when you're starting to get into that deep over, especially as soon as he feels that corner connect on him, you'd like him to kind of work up field a little bit more and then give that hard step with that right inside foot and then separate right at the ability, right there at at the ability, right at about like the 34-yard line. And that's just, again, doesn't have that in him. He allows that corner to get into his kitchen. It slows him up. And this route is completely clamped. It's covered. There's no opportunity based on just what he allows the corner to do, and then his inability to kind of get off of that journey and that path.
Yeah. And here's one versus the Bills and Kaiir Elam. Up near the line of scrimmage, watch Elam do a great job with his length at the line of scrimmage. He's patient, and you can see the circle release. So he's trying to, again, work out here and then just come back on a slant. Elam, he locks him down here. He's able to use his length. And this is why I think, the Dolphins relied on him in zone coverages, especially off zone coverage. Your cover 3, your cover 2, because when they were trying to get him the ball with those man beater concepts, he struggled versus, physical type corners, some press, some jams at the line of scrimmage. He's just not able to precisely get that circle release and break back inside suddenly.
Yeah, again, this is speaking to what he is, right? Like you talked about his receptions, and what did the heavy majority of them come against? Zone coverage. He's not a man beater. He's not going to really function in those tight spaces and against this type of coverage. Again, you see those limitations. You see the lack of precision is such a great word, right? And I think that for me, again, goes hand in hand with that suddenness or that decisiveness or sharpness in your route running. Like, it's just a little rounded. It's a little slow. It's not paced properly, and there's no juice to it for him to really separate it.
Coming out of it, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, no, it was again good stuff. I do like him. I think he's that wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, special teams type player.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's where he falls, because if he is higher on the depth chart, something went wrong, right? In a bad way. So,
Well, Gabe Davis is terrible, so he probably just leapfrog Gabe Davis.
I know, right? No, there's some good film from Harris and Sherfield there. That was a good film room. We appreciate everyone still being in here, have 117 strong after an hour and 24 minutes worth of film and talk about 2 free agents and one maybe big move on the horizon, maybe for the Bills, getting DeAndre Hopkins. So overall, man, what were your thoughts on the moves they've made thus far in free agency, and where are the holes left? And do you expect
Oof.
that hole to be filled? I'll say hole because there's really one glaring need right now. And honestly, was it
right.
it was going to be the topic of tonight's show until
Once
they
we came
made
close.
these moves.
Yeah, it came close. We came close to talking about that. Maybe that's what'll happen up on the docket for next week. So overall, with all those questions you threw at me just now, I like the moves that they made, and also I kind of expected it. I think we talked about it going into the offseason. We've talked about it on the show. Them making moves to not be forced into any certain direction or avenue come draft time. And here they are, getting depth and getting functionality and adding new dynamics to the team, all for very affordable, cost-effective deals. I think that's the biggest piece. We've talked about the salary cap and the money and everything that they've done. They've cleared some space, but they weren't going to be the most financially flexible team this offseason. I think given where they were, they made moves to improve this team in a variety of ways, either with an upgrade in terms of actual player and talent, or in terms of adding new dynamics or skill sets to this team. So I'm very much okay with that. Moves going forward, and it ties into that whole, all eyes focused on the linebacker position. I really feel as of this moment that the first pick for the Bills will be linebacker in this draft. It's just imagine if it comes at pick 27 or if they trade back and it comes into the second round. That seems like where all eyes are going. Even if they sign someone in free agency at this point, I don't think there's anybody left that is going to completely command that Tremaine Edmonds spot in this defense, given the role that it is and the importance that it has and what it takes to succeed in that role. So my eyes are really focused in free agency on what they continue to do to add to the depth. Maybe they sign an edge rusher. I know Leonard Floyd is still out there, and maybe if he's on a cheapy deal, like potentially a 1 or 2 year deal, and he's under 10 mil, I'd love to throw some money and get some proven pass rush production off the edge. But even that, I don't love at this point. So my eyes are focused in free agency on some more affordable, cost-effective deals to round out this team from a depth perspective on both sides of the ball potentially, and then all eyes towards the draft and see what they do at linebacker, which is the position that you alluded to in terms of being a legitimate need and hole on this team.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if that isn't addressed in the draft. I mean, let's put it simply. And we're gonna try to cover it if we get a chance in the next couple of weeks. Show you guys some prospects at the linebacker position that are fits for the scheme, especially when we're talking Mike, because it's obviously a priority with this coaching staff and front office.
And also real quick with that, people not recognizing like the difference between the linebacker spots like Mike and Will, and seeing somebody who they'll be like, man, it'd be great to have him in this defense. And it's like, no, he doesn't fit the Mike linebacker spot. So that's a thing to kind of keep in your hip pockets for everybody watching. That's something that we will address. Like when we get to that topic, the difference in the position and why certain players and skill sets fit that position instead of others.
All right. And so AJ, our producer, he dropped the link to Apple Podcasts. We have the film room on all audio platforms, but a lot of our, subscribers and downloads came from Apple. Unfortunately, Apple changed over our entire channel, the Cover One channel, where all of our podcasts would drop into one feed. They changed that. And so a lot of our subscribers are, messaging us like, hey, are you guys dropping a film room anytime soon? Turns out that link is dead now. So if you guys want to listen to this show, maybe you saw half of it live here with us and you want to catch it while you're at work, you're able to download it on Apple or any other platforms. Just make sure you subscribe to that, because a lot of people had been subscribed to that main network channel or handle. So AJ dropped the link for Apple Podcasts, but again, we're on all platforms, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We're just trying to build up that subscriber base again. We lost a lot of you guys. And so Please make sure you subscribe to us on whatever platform you listen to. Let other people know about it as well, so that they can, again, rectify that situation on their end as well. Because obviously we rely on a lot of those downloads, those listens and whatnot. But I do have a special giveaway. Let me grab it. One other thing I want to talk about is, I don't know if you guys can see this. It's a Stephon Diggs
it's so
frame.
pretty.
It's pretty dope, right? Nice. I got it on Pinterest. It was actually my background for a few episodes this year. Well, I'll be giving that away over the next week. In order to be entered into that giveaway, you guys that are in here and listening later, you have to sign up to be an insider. So if you become an insider, I'll have your information and you'll be entered into this giveaway. I'll draw it next week on the show, and then I'll send it out immediately the next day, and that will be yours. Again, all you have to do is become an insider on the website. AJ, drop that link for us again. Sign up. Again, you're helping support everything we do. All these resources and tools we have, these microphones. I mean, everything you see and hear is because you guys support us. And we've always been a small, independent, grassroots type company. So support us by becoming an insider. And again, you'll be entered to get that Stephon Diggs framed. It's I believe it's canvas.
It is
pretty dope though. It's pretty dope. You'll be entered to for that giveaway. So again, thank you guys for joining us tonight in the film room, man. Another fun one. We'll let you guys know sometime during the week what the topic for the next show is, but we appreciate everyone. And again, we couldn't do this without you.
Absolutely. Whatever form your support comes in, it's greatly appreciated. And whether it's being here live with us or word of mouth or monetary, which is helpful. I mean, you guys think this tree is cheap? Costs money for this garland. I change it every month. Like, it's expensive. And you guys and girls are the lifeblood of what we do here. So whether you're dropping a like, whether you are signing up for One Pass and becoming an insider, whether you are subscribing, whether you're leaving a rating, a review on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, or potentially doing all of those things, which is absolutely tremendous. We appreciate you folks more than you will possibly know on this show as an entire brand. Again, you folks make it possible for us to exist and live in this space. So as we always say, thank you very much. We appreciate the hell out of you folks. Erik, any parting words on anything you're looking forward to in this week? Again, especially as we stay fluid here in the film room, reacting to what's going on. Is there anything you got your eye focused on, leading into the coming weeks or coming month?
I'm actually, I'm going to plug what's next on the channel. I'm going to say what I'm excited about is Don and Josh from If the Walls Could Talk in Buffalo. They are coming on at 9:00 with Sal Capaccio from WGR. So go grab a drink, go hit the restroom, come back to the Cover One YouTube channel and watch that interview with those guys. They go back. They go way back in Sal's career, talking with him. So again, take a little intermission and come back at 9:00. And we have content every day, especially prime time. Prime time, that's where we shine. We did it again in the film room tonight. And we thank everyone for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you again to everybody who joined us live here on the show. Thank you to everybody who was engaging with us in the comments, engaging with one another. Thank you to the people who were in the comments telling everybody to drop likes. Again, that's tremendously important. If you folks haven't already, please drop a like on this video, whether you're here live now or watching later. Thank you very much to Y-Town's King for the super chat. Appreciate the hell out of you for that. You're a regular listener and viewer of the show and the channel, so we appreciate you in general, but especially for that super chat. Thank you for all the kind words that flowed in for the brand and for myself and Erik during this entire episode. Again, tell your family and friends and loved ones about how fantastic the show is and the brand and channel. If you enjoy this content, we appreciate any and every ounce of support and opportunity to get our name out there and get in front of more eyes and ears. So thank you very much for whatever form or fashion your support comes in. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well, staying safe, be kind to one another, take care of one another. We will see you next week live Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern for another episode of the Cover One Film Room. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Erik Turner, for For AJ, our man behind the scenes, who you cannot see, he's like a ghost lurking in the background. This has been another episode of the Cover One Film Room. Godspeed. We'll see you next week. And as always, go Bills.